Right, boys, let's move on because when we've got Mark Clattenburg here, it's always lovely to talk Newcastle. Because when West Ham aren't shite and Andy Dillon's here, you can always rely on Newcastle.
Trust us to get rid of West Ham.
Perfect combination for you.
Do you want a little story about my time? So my ex-boss at the Sun, a big Newcastle fan. Before,
are we allowed to tell people?
Sorry?
He's on the telly all the time, isn't he, Sean Custis?
He is on the telly a lot, yeah. So he's a big Newcastle fan, and prior to the Saudis taking over, we would often have debates about which team was actually worse, West Ham or Newcastle, because it was always a disaster around the corner. We actually had an annual trophy called the Inept Cup. Yeah. And it was just a squashed up old coffee cup.
Lost trophy.
A squashed up old coffee cup.
We should do that.
Whichever team had the most calamities during the season, whether it was, I'll lose count of disaster, but from West Ham's point of view, playing Manu Yomayimni in a League Cup semi-final, having to replay it and losing it. So losing a game they'd already won. All those disasters were just around the corner. So when the Saudis took over, of course, I called a halt to it. I just said, you're going to be running away with it now. There's just like, you're out of this league. Go, we're on our own. But no, it seems to be, you can't shake it off.
I mean, there was that spell, wasn't there? I loved watching Newcastle. There was a wee spell where the intensity was brilliant. I love Guimaraes and Joe Linton, just great players. But I don't know if it's a signings issue, Mark, or what it is. Because Eddie Howe's clearly a brilliant manager, and really, he leaves no stone unturned, does he? But what's going on at the moment with Newcastle, Mark?
You know what? It just shows how bonkers football is when they talk about this weekend after defeat against Brentford.
Yeah,
that Eddie Howe out. Eddie Howe shouldn't be.
They haven't won a race since April.
I heard fans, Newcastle fans, saying Eddie Howe out. Are these true fans? This man won a trophy for the first time in God knows how many years. Should have a statue outside St James's, because a lot of managers have tried to win a trophy.
Big managers.
And he's turned the club from the Ashley era, which was a disaster, didn't want to win anything other than survive in the Premier League, buy and sell players, to a team that the city can be proud of.
He said something really interesting. He said they were a worse team when they went ahead against Brentford.
Yes.
But that's what's crazy.
What's the psychology of that?
Something's wrong.
I was there when he said it.
Oh, were you?
Yeah, I was at the press conference because I covered the game.
What was his body language like? Defeated?
He never really doesn't move much, does he, Eddie Howe? He just says it how it is, very, very steady. But when I saw the quote, I'm thinking to myself, I could kind of. And so I spoke to Lascelles afterwards as well, and we talked about that. I said, "Is it becoming a bit of a thing?" No, of course, no. We choose. We treat every home game the same as we do an away game. It's this, is that. It's not becoming a thing. And then you've got the manager saying, "Actually, we're worse when we go ahead." So it is that like there's that real dichotomy, if you like, that real dilemma among them that they are so shaky. Because is it any coincidence they lost 3-1 at West Ham before last week, having gone ahead? They went ahead at Brentford and lost 3-1.
Yeah, but I think as a fan and watched the Brentford game in particular, Eddie Howe has to take some blame tactically.
Well, he did after.
And I've seen coaches do it on a regular basis. Dan Burn is having a torrid time. He's on a yellow card, and you can see the sign is one more challenge and he's going to get a red card. Yeah. He was lucky not to give a penalty away.
He was
earlier in the match. So as a manager, as a coach or a manager, you should be thinking, and the people around him should be saying, you know what?
Get him off.
We've got Lewis Hall, who was a natural fullback. Let's, whatever loyalty to Dan Burn, what Dan Burn's done, the bullet header he scored in the European game against Brentford.
Does it? It doesn't make sense to keep him on. I thought it was quite obvious.
Is it loyalty? Is it loyalty that he's got so much loyalty to these players? Because if you saw that, and everybody did, and as a fan, that's what the frustrations was, that he should be able to see that Dan Burn's struggling, get him off before he gets the red card. Because when we went down to 10 men, there's no coming back, not away from home against Brentford. So the game's over. Yeah. But he should have saw that.
My question is, Mark, how can you win 3 games in Europe and win well, and then chuck away two leads, right? But is that something about the players? Is that
100%. Of course, on the big games. If you look, they haven't lost a Carabao Cup game in 19 months, 20 months. Mm-hmm. It seems to be that competition brings the best out of them. Mm-hmm. Champions League, they've had some great results in Champions League, stemmed 2 years ago when they beat Paris on the opening round 4-1. St James's Park, Champions League nights, players seem to rise.
Step it up. Yeah.
And they've got this mentality. The problem they've got when they come away from St James's, they haven't got that energy. Mm-hmm. They've also, the last months, if you look at somebody like, and I'm not making this an excuse, but I know what I was like as a referee, so I can only go from an experience as a referee. When you travel halfway around the world and come back for a domestic game at the weekend, you're flat.
Yeah.
And you ask Guimarães and Joe Linton, who had trouble getting to South Korea. The flight got diverted. So they had to come all the way back to Amsterdam because of the crack in the windscreen or whatever happened. They then flew out to play some friendlies out in South Korea. They've come back.
That's not good for you, is it?
But then the manager, this is the issue, and this is my issue with what's happened to Newcastle. Mm-hmm. We had a chance. There was a turning point in the club with this financial fair play. And it was Anderson and Minte, who's gone to Brighton and Nottingham Forest. These two sales or Gordon. Because they had to balance the books so there would be a points deduction. So they had to do something.
Yep.
Gordon has gone backwards.
Yep.
His form's dipped. I'm not saying there's a bad play in him, but he's dipped.
Has he got a hip injury as well?
He's got a hip injury. He's been suspended in key matches.
I think you have to take that into consideration on Sunday.
Mm-hmm. But his form's dipped, Andy. He hasn't scored or assisted all season. And then you've got Anderson Minte, who's now performing at the highest levels in the Premier League for Brighton and Nottingham Forest. Anderson's now playing quite regular for England. We haven't got that energy levels in midfield anymore when Joe Linton and Guimarães are flying around the world. Tonali is also.
Yeah.
You've got he's got this core players who he believes in, but you can't play them every week.
Let's not
and
forget,
he doesn't trust anybody else.
We can't forget that Johan Wissa, their big signing to replace Isaac, hasn't kicked a ball for him.
The arrogance, Andy, and I said this before the podcast, the arrogance of the club over Isaac, whatever happened, Isaac was leaving. At the initial early stage, he's not training. He knew he was going to fabricate the move. No player will ever want to stay at the club, but there was always going to be that fight. A clever club and the people behind the scenes would have said, look, you know what? If we get Isaac to Liverpool, we could have Ekitike. Because Ekitike, Liverpool wouldn't have signed Ekitike at that time. He would have been a Newcastle player for half of Isaac's money. You could have bought Walter, you could have bought Wissa as well. And they didn't. So Liverpool bought both, got Isaac, and we had a horrific pre-season. Because Walter, if you look at, even though Walter's done well, he's not fit. He's not Premier League. If a player still, after 10 Premier League games, is getting cramp, there's something wrong, fundamentally wrong. Because you can't expect a player that's played in the Bundesliga and the demands of a modern-day Premier League player and asking him what he's trying to do for Newcastle United, link play, be a forward, try and get on the end of crosses. You're always going to have these issues, and I feel that...
He got 4 touches in that game against Brentford. Did you see
just
that?
make one final
First
point
touch
on
after
this.
28 minutes, by the way.
One final point. Who do you think was the last team that Newcastle beat away from home?
West Ham.
West Ham. Hence the inept cup.
And when was that? Do you know when that was?
April. Yeah, April.
That's the last time I think Newcastle won away.
We won in Europe.
Yeah, you won in Europe.
Yeah, in the Premier League.
In the Premier League, yeah.
April. And
yeah.